He's one of the 25 icons of Indian IT that we've kind of featured in a book which was released in 2018, Anand Parsati and I. And of course, one more additional attraction for me to come over is I have been wanting to catch up with Madan, my good friend, because we all know that we belong to a profession called the talkers, and he is one of the doers, right? It is good to have more doers than the talkers, okay? So what I thought I will do is that I'll spend about 10 minutes looking at what all the nice things technology has done, and maybe today socially good is one more addition to what technology can do for the humanity at large. If you really look back, one of the first thing which happened to humanity was we got over physical dimension called mobility. Of course, there are several things which we did in mobility. You know, there were exceptional people who could take a catamaran from Odisha and Tamil Nadu and walk to Java and Sumatra, but only a handful of people. There are also individuals like Shankaracharya who could walk from Kaladi in Kerala to Kedarnath and Badrinath. But for most of us, we can't do that. Okay. So how do we make ordinary people also move? And there was a company called Volkswagen. If you actually know a little bit of Deutsch, it is wagon for folks. It's people's car. That is how the automobile came. And if you really look at it, that got repeated in many, many countries at different times. In United States, Ford company, people are busy building trucks. Henry Ford decided that we need to do something for the Aam Aadmi. That is how the automobile came. And just about 10 years back, you all remember Ratan Tata kind of talking about his inspiration was a mid-aged couple with grown-up children, okay, kind of moving around in an overloaded scooter. And he thought there must be an opportunity to serve them. That is how Nano came. Nano itself may not have been successful for a very different reason, but overall, so I think technology changed, and imagine that without automobile in many forms, how life would have been. That's one part. Then come kind of the time dimension. I think for centuries, we were limited by availability of sunlight. When it is dark, pretty much you can't do much. So how do I kind of break that one so that I can work 24 hours? One small place in east of United States called New Jersey, okay, now it is called Edison. A person called Edison came up with this concept of a light. But people did not stop there, and then there is an interesting company called General Electric which said that, look, we will make life easy for particularly the women folk in the house. They created what is called white goods, the refrigerator and washing machine. So life was different. And you see, in India, normally people think of manufacturing only as automobile, machines, metals and all. But there is equally strong manufacturing in an area called fine chemicals. And then, thanks to a whole range of them, Nobel Prize winning discoveries of drugs, manufacturing of fine chemicals, you know, even in a place called Rishikesh, there is a factory which most people don't recognize. It is called IDPL. Okay, so it is a public sector. They could make antibiotics not at affordable price, at throwaway price. So I'll tell you some interesting story just happened about 3 or 4 a couple of months back. You know, sometimes in India we keep hearing bad news, but you know, nobody really has time to listen to the good news. And there are so many good news happening all the time, so I will waste 1 minute of your time, but it's so interesting. So about 3-4 months back, I was coming back from Bombay. So for some reason, I took a decision much early in my life. I will wear only chappals. I won't wear shoes. Okay, so I'm a chappal wala. So what happened is, as I'm getting out of the plane, somebody kind of took the bag from the overhead compartment, and then the bag was a little heavy, so quickly kind of put it down. When they put it down, it kind of hit my nail. For a split second, I had some pain. Afterward, I didn't feel much of the pain. I kept walking. By the time I came out of the airport and about to get into the car, my driver noticed it was bleeding. And he said, "Sir, you have some blood there." So he took some bottle of water, poured it, and he even said, "Sir, I have a first aid kit, but I have never used it. Shall I try?" So I said, "Look, maybe we can, on the way Jayanagar, we can go to Ramakrishna and take care." But as we went past, suddenly I find near the airport there's a Columbia Asia. And I thought that, it is right on the road, I don't even have to take a detour. My driver said, "Sir, why don't we go inside?" But it was an amazing experience, right? A lot of time we have such bad experience and anecdotes about this so-called fancy corporate hospitals. So what happened, it is so well made. So as soon as I was coming out, there was somebody noticed me and took actually a wheelchair. I didn't need a wheelchair, but it was much more convenient, the wheelchair. He wheeled me inside. And there are lots of things, about 8 or 9 patients in fairly difficult conditions were there. One doctor came to me and said, "Sir, are you a diabetic?" I said, "No." So he said that, looking at my age, he wanted to be more careful. And he said, "No problem." He just looked at it, and then he came and then found that the nail had already broken. He said, "Sir, nothing to worry. I just have to take it out." And then he put a first aid. And then I remember almost after 40 years, I was taking a tetanus injection shot, anti-tetanus, okay. And then he said, "I'll give a shot." It took another 5 minutes. Then nobody talked about the fee or anything. So I said, "I have to pay." I said, "Don't worry, sir." So I went, and believe it or not, I actually showed it to all my colleagues. It is still there. Okay. It was 39 rupee, 48 paisa. It is 10 o'clock in the night, personalized service, and 25 rupees for the first aid kit, and most interesting, 26 paisa for the anti-tetanus injection. So that is the power of mass manufacture. Okay, so technology works. Okay, so I think what happens is that apparently it is kind of controlled by the government. That is what they are supposed to charge, etc. It's amazing. And then things which I was personally involved. So 1986, in a station called Secunderabad railway station, we started a project called Impress. It was called Railway Reservation System. Okay, so today you all know that everybody does IRCTC, but it's interesting stuff. See, some of these systems kind of survived. It was introduced when Madhavara Sindhya was the railway minister, and many of you may recall that he was followed by a very interesting person, Mannina Maga, but most of the time he never lived in Karnataka. His name is George Fernandez. He's a Mangalore fellow, but he was always a minister or a MP from Bihar. So this gentleman said, "No, computerization will take away the job, etc., etc." For some strange reason, somehow I think in this country professors are respected. I don't know why. Okay, so one fellow said, "Sir, aap boliye kuch hoga to hoga." I said, "No problem." So I went and kind of talked to the minister, and this is what I explained. I said, "Look, typical IIT professors, if I have to make a reservation, go somewhere, etc. So one is we have a lot of janitorial support, clerks, etc., etc. We can give him small amount of money. Maybe the departments will pool some 5-6 people together. We'll go and come, etc., etc. But supposing there is a daily wage person who has to go from Bombay to Bihar, that fellow does not have all our luxury. He has to take a day's wage, and that is what the system will fill. But hats off to George. He said, "Sir, आप भी कुछ मतलब बोलते हैं." So he saw some sense in it. So technology works, and you see what a difference it makes to so many people today. And remember that there was a lot of resistance to introduction of technology in banking. People thought jobs will be lost. There was one gentleman by name Vittal. He put a very nice. He was the CVC person. He said in 2001, he told all the banks, by 2011, all banks must be fully computerized. Earlier you had, this branch is computerized, that branch is computerized. And much before 2011, we achieved it. And today, in fact, excepting last couple of years where banking system is going through some difficult times, but I would say between 2006 to 2014 or 15, banks were recruiting about 100,000 to 200,000 people a year. Unprecedented jobs got created thanks to technology. And you see some of the stuff which possibly may not know, there is another person called, a very difficult person called T.N. Seshan. Okay, he spearheaded two things. One is called EPIC, an electronic photo identity card, and something called EVM. And this country does all of us proud. We do our elections better than many countries. Okay, so we have changed, and that booths used to be captured, right? Now you can't capture. So you can take a EVM, but I will replace it by another EVM. So things have changed. And of course the mobile phone, and very recently Aadhaar, Jandan, the so-called JAM. So everything is actually making life better and better, and a whole range of them. I think what is important is we should be aware. I'm not saying, I'm only talking about the good part of technology. It's not the not so good part of technology is also there. And I think if you are watchful, if you are sincere, we will ensure the wrong part of technology does not come. So technology also produces guns. Okay, I'm not denying it, but I think, as they say, a knife can kill, but a knife can also cut vegetables. Right? It's always a question of how do you position it and purpose it. And of course these days, you can't go anywhere and give a talk and call yourself an IT person and avoid what is called AI, right? So a lot of nonsense goes on, but I think just watch out. I think there is a great book by our good friend Satya Nadella, who has been doing proud to this country in so many ways. And 3 days back, Microsoft market cap went to $1 trillion. Okay. Satya has written a very nice book called Hit Refresh, and that is something very relevant to you, because one of the nice things about Satya's book is, he says after a long time with all the automation, AI, etc., maybe it will take away a lot of jobs, but it will also create a lot more jobs. See, Satya's one of the sons has a very special problem. So, it needs to be tended much more. He said, look, because I am a rich man, I could afford. Supposing my janitor's son has a similar problem, will he be able to afford? He said, look, that is what AI will give. And he puts it very succinctly. He said, for 2-3 generations, human beings have tended machines. We were tending steam engines, we were tending motors, pumps, computers, PCs, palms, mobile phones, etc. He said, next generation, human beings will tend human beings. I think robots taking care of manufacture, etc. I think finally we will have more time for us, right? Maybe through socially good. I think that is something which is much better than actually kind of wasting your time running after machines. It could be design of machines or manufacture of the machines or services of the machines, but let all them be done by machines. Humans will have time for humans, and the time has come, and maybe this is the platform. And of course, we professors are kind of programmed, okay? So we always have to, before closing, we always have to kind of caution you. So one of the things I want you to caution is, because you quoted United Nations. United Nations is famous for, quote unquote, discuss poverty in 5-star hotels after flying first class, okay? So I think one of the goals I would give is, your platform cost should not exceed 5%. Okay, a lot of platforms which cost 51%. Okay, so thank you, and I just look forward to listening to Madan. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.